with the most important part of the evening. I'm going to leave the stage, Verena is going to take over, and please join me in welcoming our panelists who are going to rock the stage. Thank you.
That's okay, the beer is better than the water. You know, I'm from Munich, I'm fine with the beer. Yeah, you have to fight for the mics as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's great to have you all here. Before we dive into today's topic, I would love to get a better understanding of our audience today. So please raise your hands. Who of you has actually an investment background? Okay, one person. Very good. Who of you is working in law? Okay, there we go. There are the people. And who is actually a founder? A founder in the legal tech area? Okay, so definitely a need. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic, the legal tech market in Germany. And to start, it would be great if you could just quickly introduce yourselves, maybe give us a little bit of your background and your company, and also your current position. You can start, ladies start.
Thank you. So my name is Genz, and I'm General Counsel at Flightright. I'm at Flightright since 2015, when legal tech starts to getting more and more interesting and comes up. So my company, Flightright, I don't know if anybody knows it, but if your flight is delayed or cancelled, you have to write for compensation out of the 261 regulation. So that's known as the Air Passenger Rights Regulation. And so what's the idea behind this regulation? You have the compensation from 250 euros up to 600 euros if your flight is delayed or cancelled. This regulation exists since 2004, but what happened? Nobody knew about his rights and that they are rights. And our founder, here today, so it's me, see that problem, that there's a problem in access to justice, that nobody knows the rights, and if even if you know your rights, you don't know how to get enforced your rights. So the idea behind Flightright was born, and so Philip took this idea and went in front of it,
and you're just strong woman behind it, right? Very good.
Yeah, the strong woman behind, and now Flightright was born and gave people access to justice, and now customers know the right about air passengers and know how to get enforced the right.
Okay, amazing.
Sorry, Verena, just can you turn on the microphone? I think it's not switched on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and maybe try it again, Julian. Oh, this one is working as well.
This one is working as well. So I'm Julian. I'm working at the Berlin-based law firm BMH. We advise on all aspects of business law, like private equity, real estate, notarial services, but also litigation. And I'm personally working in the venture capital department of BMH, where we advise investors, but also startups on all venture capital parts of law. For example, financing rounds, employee participation programs, and so on. Our experience with legal tech is, on the one hand, that we use software as a law firm, which can be considered as legal tech, but we also observe, obviously, the legal market and see that many startups are pushing into the market like Flightright or Lexfox. So that's our experience with it.
Okay, I'm Clemens. I work at Venture Capital, where I'm an investment manager. Previously, I worked as a lawyer at Raue, so I actually know both sides now. The dark side as a lawyer, and the darker side as a VC. At Clemens Venture Capital, I mostly invest in sectors which are in some way connected to the value chain of an insurance company, but also into startups that focus on process automation, mostly targeting sector-agnostic solutions for enterprises. As such, the professional services industry is basically in the intersection between the value chain of an insurance company, but also the sector-agnostic process automation for enterprises, as legal processes are found in mostly every enterprise. So this was it in a nutshell. I also invest in early stage companies, so our normal ticket size is between 1 to 3 million euros.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Lexfox, which is the operator of consumer law protection platforms like wenigermiete.de, talking about rent, mehrabfindung.de, about severance payments of employees, and weniger-internetkosten.de, which is about internet speed, huge topic. I have a background in law and business. I was a lawyer for the most part of my career, where I actually met Julian at Hegler Miller Law Firm ages ago. Was doing M&A, private equity, and VC, corporate compliance. And what drives me is the word access to justice has been mentioned before, is the huge problem that we face in every jurisdiction in the world, you can say, which is that small to medium-sized claims do not get enforced by consumers, which is a huge problem because, number one, the legislator failed to achieve their goals that they try to achieve with this piece of legislation, and number two, the counterparty, so the tenants, the landlords, the internet companies, etc., they anticipate this outcome, and so both parties of the market don't believe in the legal system, which is a huge problem, and this is something we're trying to fix, and we're very happy that more and more legal tech startups are entering the market, and we as Lexfox want to provide the technology and also provide a horizontal platform that enables everybody to enforce their rights.
Perfect. So maybe we can start by talking a bit about what has actually happened in the previous year in the whole legal area. And maybe Julian, you can start and give us like kind of an overview about the market development and also where we are coming from.
Yes, so from my perspective, there are three sectors mainly targeted by legal tech. The one is helping lawyers doing their administrative, daily, boring work, not the legal work, but the repetitive work like data collection of clients and so on. The second one is the consumer rights section, where startups try to enforce and help consumers enforcing their rights. And the third one is platforms where clients and lawyers can meet.
Mm-hmm.
We also see a development on the public sector, which is not really going on in Germany, but more in countries like Estonia, for example. They have developed a system where you can, by a fully digitized process, found a corporation, for example, so you don't need the notary anymore for this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And when you compare like the B2B and the B2C sector, where do you see, where have you seen like the most potential in the last years?
So I think more and more startups are focusing on the B2C sector. That's at least my view on it. But I think there's much potential in the B2B sector because there we are not at the end of the development. Lawyers are helped by software in the course of their billing process, for example. But I see much potential in, for example, with contract management software or automated drafting of agreements. There the development has not come to an end.
So maybe let's ask the VC. So what have you developed, or what is your observation from the different areas in the past? Where do you see the most potential, and what were for you the biggest changes in the legal landscape?
So basically, I think we have to differ between, first of all, B2B and B2C legal tech startup companies. And then within the B2B companies, we have to differ between the ones that are automating processes which are legal processes, such as document analysis, e-discovery, all that stuff. And then we have the non-legal processes, such as probably tools which are custom to most of you, unless you're lawyers, then you're not accustomed to, such as CRM systems, such as probably all the admin tools that people are using today or should be using today, and lawyers just didn't see the necessity. So if you think of it, then you have those three areas, and then you have probably the most innovation in B2C. Well, at least in Germany, you have the most innovation in B2C with companies such as Flightright, MyRight, HealthCheck. Then you have, of course, Bräutigam, Lexfox, which all target specific issues consumers have nowadays. Then at the B2B part, you have not so much innovation here in Germany, but you have lots of innovation all over the world. I think most mentionable would be Cura with document analysis. They raised 40 million euros last year. Then you have Ironclad, which they are building a law firm management system, which also enters into some way, in some sorts, into the contract management, template management of sorts. You have fairly interesting companies in the Nordics. I think Donna would be a really cool tool to mention. So yeah, basically you have non-legal processes, companies targeting non-legal processes, and law firms targeting legal processes. In Germany, probably Brighter as well, to mention here. Reference, of course, Munich, to mention here. And then you have the B2C companies, where we have two amazing companies with us today.
Yeah. Talking about the different legal tech startups, maybe you, Daniel, and Stephanie, maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about the business models of your companies and also what drives its success.
Yeah, sure, but let me first take a minute to comment on what had been said, because I think it's really important to understand what's going on. So if you want to do law like Julian does, you have to be very smart, and it's very hard to automate, right? But consumer claims, so the difference is that legal value creation is done in an automated manner, and this is the big step forward, I think, and this is the future, and I think we're attacking, so we as the consumer legal tech companies, we're attacking the market from the bottom to the top, but I don't see any real reason why even very complex legal issues could be solved by an algorithm, to put it that way. And so I think, assisting existing lawyers doing traditional work is important. It makes this work way more efficient and makes it way more fun, because you don't have to deal with the stupid things that is keeping time, formatting documents, administering your templates, etc. But the real step forward will be if and when the value creation becomes digitalized. And this is, I think, where the consumer legal techs are attacking at very simple legal issues, which is flight delays is the most simple legal issue you can imagine. And now we're evolving into rent, we're evolving into other legal areas, and this will not stop, I think, anytime soon. Okay, so now off then. Is it working? So now Lexfox, the business model is pretty simple. As a consumer, you can enter your data. Let's take the example of rent control, Mietpreisbremse. It takes a couple of minutes to enter the specifics of your apartment. You upload your rental agreement, and then you'll get a first assessment of the merits of your legal case. So what's your savings potential? And if you feel it's worth pursuing it, you just click the button, engage Bräutigam, and we'll take care of the entire process. So we'll write to your landlord, we'll file your claim, and and try to reach a settlement, which in most cases, or like the same, 60% of the cases, is an out-of-court settlement. And if it's not feasible, we'll take the case to court. And the good thing is for the consumer, it's completely free of cost risks. So it only costs if and to the extent we achieve a financial benefit for the consumer. And this is, I think, this is solving all the problems that I just mentioned that are problems with respect to access to justice. It's inconvenient, it's extremely, the cost of financial risks are high, and you have an emotional problem engaging in a legal fight with the counterparty. And I think that these three areas of problems can be solved by legal tech, and we're trying to do that.
Where do you think we are in this development? How far? Still a lot of
At the very
potential.
beginning.
At
I
the
think
very
I keep
beginning.
saying that legal tech is like fintech in 2009 or 10, and there's a lot of energy in the sector. There's a lot of small startups. There's a lot of money still missing in the ecosystem, right? So there haven't been any.
Looking at you.
There haven't been any big VC rounds in continental Europe. In the UK, there have been some. In the US, there have been, I think, $1 billion US dollars invested in legal tech in 2018. So we're lagging behind in that respect. So it's very exciting because it's the very start of this development.
So the business model of Flightright is mainly the same as the business model of.
So we copied it from
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
To be fair.
To be fair, yeah. So you enter, as a customer, you enter your claim in your data in our compensation calculator, and then the compensation calculator say you have the right to compensation or not. And then you can ask the auto authorization, and we will request the airline if they want to pay or not. So at the beginning, all airlines said no, we want to pay, and we have to sue every airline. So that was in 2010, and that was in 2011, 2012, and now it has changed. Now we are entering into a process with airlines, and we can talk with them, and people see that they have access to justice, and that it works, that the system of Flightright works, and that the system of the 261 regulation works as well, and that they have a right, and that they get enforced their rights. And that's the idea behind Flightright, that it is user-friendly, that there's no win, no fee principle behind the idea. And so before it was like that, we have a compensation, or the right of compensation, up to 600 euro. So you went to the airline and say, hey, I want the money back. And then the airline said, no, okay, what will you do? You sue the airline by yourself. You have a risk of costs. You don't know how to proceed. So the other possibility was to go to a lawyer. You spend a lot of time. You have cost risk. And the third possibility, do nothing. So, and now you have a possibility to get your rights and to make it in a user-friendly way.
Can
Can I just add one more thing, because sometimes it's underestimated, the success rate, because it's not only a convenience issue, but it's also, so if Flightright takes a claim and enforces it against Ryanair, or whatever the airline is, they know exactly that they have a 98% success rate. So their incentive to settle out of court is way higher than if you take just a single practitioner lawyer who has no reputation with the airline. And this is a benefit that's oftentimes underestimated, which is building a reputation, investing in that reputation, taking every case to court, and then ending up at a situation where you reach very high out-of-court settlement, which we're still yet to come to. So we're still suing every landlord in Germany to get to that situation.
And
And
also,
it's fun.
I can imagine. Also, adding to your business, I mean, it's great. Flightright is actually a really good sign that we are getting a bit closer to the whole legal landscape. We just had the exit by Intermedia earlier this year. So what is your recommendation, or what is your experience on scaling so fast?
Working hard. Suing the airlines, working hard, and build up a system which gives the customer access to justice, and which is easy to understand, easy to use, and have ideas behind this. One of our values is as well make mistakes and learn, and so we're always trying to understand what people want
that's also a good way. So coming a bit more to, so I mean, obviously, as you described, there has been major developments in the market. So coming a bit more to that point where we are standing today, what, from your perspective, what are like, what is going on in the market? What are like the hot topics that we see as founders or also lawyers are talking about? Where do you see most of the potential right now?
Okay. So,
Everyone is allowed to.
It's working, okay. So, as I just said, with regard to B2C, you see that you have that sort of access to justice movement. I think you call it legal fracking, which I find even better. It's that companies are addressing legal issues that are pain for most consumers. And I mean, everyone had a huge pain with this phone company at some point, I assume. Everyone had a huge pain with the Deutsche Bahn being delayed or his flight being delayed. So all these issues have been ignored. All these pains have been ignored for at least the past 20 years, and now you have software companies addressing these issues and helping the market to become less fragmented. Then also you have a number of pains that huge law firms had. Most of probably the biggest pain being the huge inefficiency that every law firm has to struggle with, because for one reason mostly, lawyers aren't really managers. So lawyers aren't really trained to be efficient. Lawyers aren't really trained to be profitable. And they at some point have to adapt, and they started adapting. And they started with cost cutting. I think the easiest cost cutting was changing the team evenings, the associate evenings to cheaper restaurants. But at some point this didn't help anymore. So then they started cost cutting with CRM systems, cheaper lawyers, cheaper foreign lawyers mostly. And then this also didn't help. So now the big law firms are driven to establish software which just takes away the monkey work from lawyers for two reasons. First of all, because the lawyers they are really they're really difficult to keep, and they're difficult to prevent from churning, because there aren't enough lawyers for the big law firms to employ. So they have to adapt, and they have to make it work somehow. So they try to squeeze out the last bit of efficiency using software from their lawyers at the moment. And I think if you look at it technology-wise, you have of course big data, artificial intelligence, but you also have some no-code and low-code providers. You have RPA, which is a word that has been unknown to most lawyers, or is unknown to most lawyers. And there's one company here in Berlin called Bräutigam, and they are establishing a no-code solution which enables lawyers to sell a third product. The first product has been litigation. The second product has been contracts. And now the third product is legal processes within companies, where the lawyer is becoming a technology vendor, the lawyer is becoming a legal process manager for his clients, creating a lock-in effect with the clients and the software company, again creating a lock-in effect. And if I may add a third thing, so access to justice is doing the same thing that software companies that are addressing lawyers as their target customers are doing from the top. So you have the top law firms pushing down, attacking the SME law firms by becoming cheaper and offering scalable legal products. And then you have the software companies and also new players pushing from the bottom. First of all, grabbing the entire market that hasn't existed yet. But the better they get, the more processes, the more and more legal software solutions they will create, and the more products they will offer. So you have a market which will become less fragmented, and that's what makes it very interesting from a VC perspective. And that's also why we see so much funding going to the legal services market at the moment. Sorry.
I fully agree with you, but I think it's really interesting and good for law firms that they now can have, or with the help of software, some days in the future, can have a scalable business. Because in the past, it was like that you only could create more revenue by hiring more lawyers or doing more hours. But in the future, I think it will be the case that you, by smart software solutions, you can have a scalable business, which is really great, and you can outsource your like monkey work, as Clemens said, to the software, focus on the real high-end law work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Can I just add one more thing, because I think, I mean, it's if you think about the market, the addressable market, it's it's obviously a useful thing to make lawyers work more efficient. But the market for like high-end lawyers, and even if they push down the market to go to SME law firms, is still a very, very tiny fraction of value creation. If you consider, on the other hand, that there are 5 billion consumers in the world who all, like 100%, have legal issues once in their lifetime, at least twice, 3 times, and they all have mobile phone contracts, they all have lease agreements, they all have electricity agreements, etc., etc. So they will all enter at some point in a situation where they need legal assistance, and there's zero offering for them right now on the planet. And this is something that's like magnitude times bigger than the legal market that we're talking of today.
Yeah, I mean, sticking to that point, I mean, why do you believe that also, I mean, then we are still not at the level that we would love to be, but also from the VC side, I mean, why are investors still so reserved? Are there any regulatory concerns that startups have to be in mind, or what do you believe? Why are we so at the beginning in Germany in comparison maybe also to different countries?
Yeah, so LegalZoom is the largest, most successful legal tech in the world. It's based in the US, and they have fought a long fight with the bar, I think in Virginia. I forgot which bar it was. So they got sued because the bar said that what they do is basically they're offering a do-it-yourself toolkit for creating your own contract. The bar said it's illegal. It's legal consulting. You can't do that. They settled this lawsuit, and now they're active in 50 states in the US, and they're expanding into continental Europe and UK. And also, I mean, in Germany, we got sued by the Rechtsanwaltskammer Berlin. We won the case, and so it's a funny story. So one seasoned legal tech entrepreneur asked me when I first met him. He asked this one question: how long did it take for you since launch that the bar sued you? And I said 1 year, and he said that's great because it means that you're relevant and that you've become somebody that they take an issue with, and that's actually a KPI he would mention in a deck. And if you win the case, it's even better. So I think that's one problem that the regulatory system in Germany, but I would say in the entire continental Europe, isn't fit yet to cope with what could become legal tech in the future.
Yeah. What is different than, what would you say in the US, for example, in comparison to Germany? What is missing here?
So the US legal tech market is much bigger because it's the US market, which is half of the entire legal services market in the world. And also what's different is the mindset. So in Europe, you have a very, very fragmented regulatory market. You also don't have such a culture of founding your company or founding a startup. And also here in Europe, most lawyers aren't really driven by technology, driven by innovation. So I think the same applies to America, but still America is the bigger market. So what changed over the past years is probably that, very similar to health tech, very similar to fintech, you have more and more lawyers becoming founders and understanding that to some degree they must become businessmen. So it's a change in culture, which we have been seeing for the past 5 years.
And to add something, I also think that we have 2 laws in Germany which are not liberal enough. I think it's Rechtsdienstleistungsgesetz is one of them. So you mainly as Flightright does, and as also Lexfox does, you have to register as so-called Inkasso-Dienstleister or Inkasso-Unternehmen in order to provide in this area legal services. But there's no real regulation for legal techs. I think that's the major problem. The other one is that law firms and software companies can't found a because they can't share their fees. The law firms can't share their fees. So this is also a pity, and I think that's also different in the US.
So there's a big problem, like Julian said, because we have the Rechtsdienstleistungsgesetz, and the Rechtsdienstleistungsgesetz is from the year 2007, I think, and legal texts were not known in the year 2007. So what does legal text at the moment is to register under the Rechtsdienstleistungsgesetz as a debt collection agency, but in the end there are no more possibilities out of that. So now we have some a party, the FDP, who has a proposal for a new law and which will liberate the right for all legal texts, and that's a good proof from the politician side to get more in touch with legal texts, so that the market can be more liberated.
What other, sticking to that point, what other initiatives do you think have to be taken in place in Germany to drive the legal market more?
It's funding and exits. So we'll need to see more VC funding, but we'll also need to see at least some relevant exit. And Flightright could have been that exit, but Flightright hasn't communicated to what the exit process have been. So until today, we're still waiting for that one relevant exit. And I think once we've seen such relevant exit, or at least such relevant funding round, that would help, then other VCs will follow.
Okay, and going back also a bit to the whole challenges that we are talking about, and also to Clemens, what you at the beginning pointed out, and Daniel as well, about the different groups of legal tech startups that we have. I mean, there are like some startups who are, or that are more supporting the processes of traditional lawyers, but then we have also some who are more taking over or taking on the whole processes and the whole work of lawyers. So I would be interested to know in how far do you see the traditional lawyers are challenged by legal tech startups. So far we really had to focus on the positive side, but could there also be a negative side for lawyers? What would you say?
Ich glaube, die Schallschutzwarte liegt irgendwo die Genz.
Hier ist tatsächlich
Okay. Better? So is there a bad side to it? So first of all, I mean, pioneers of legal tech, Flightright and the others, have concentrated on an area where lawyers didn't have a real interest, not a business interest. If the value in dispute is 600 euros, no sane lawyer would take that, no good lawyer and sane lawyer would take that case. So what we call legal fracking is we're moving down the chain basically. So we're trying to monetize claims that are even less attractive for the lawyer, for the traditional lawyers. But there are also startups. We're also doing this with severance payments. Flightright is doing that with Chevalier. So severance payments is an attractive area for even regular lawyers who have no automation because the values in dispute is relatively high. And I'm pretty sure to the extent that there are standardizable, automatable cases with a high volume in dispute. Actually, we have one product in preparation, which we're going to launch pretty soon. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it has high value and is pretty automatable, and which is a big thing that lawyers actually do right now. And we're going to see how that plays out. But I think, I mean, if lawyers are threatened by something that's providing a better service at a cheaper price, what's the harm in that?
I also think that it's not really a sustainable business model, to be honest, to hope that no startups will take away the business of lawyers. I think it's, if you have standardized cases with more or less simple legal questions, this is much better be done by software solutions and startups focusing on special areas of law than by some lawyer. So even I, as a lawyer, lawyer would consult like wenigermiete.de or Flightright if I had a missed flight or if I paid too much rent.
And in which areas do you believe that it's really hard to replace the traditional lawyer system?
I think at least for now it's really hard to replace a lawyer in like high-end transaction work where you have custom-made provisions which are negotiated between parties for hours or days. So this can't be replaced right now by a software solution.
But I think it's not the question to replace a lawyer. I think the aim is to collaborate between lawyers and legal techs, and that's the aim. And the question is, what wants the customer? What wants the consumer? And that it should be user-driven and not lawyer-driven or in this way. So that should be the question, and not don't want to replace the lawyer. We want to go in a gap and fill in the gap.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it's out of the question that technology will ever replace the lawyer. It's more that the lawyer's job description will change over time. But I mean, in the past years, we've seen the internet coming, and then the internet research coming up, and then back online and Julius and all those huge internet databases, and they haven't led to less lawyers, even though you need less lawyers to do better research. They led to more lawyers. So our entire system is, our entire political system, and also our entire life is depending on law, and that we will always need lawyers. It's more that you will maybe see a decrease in lawyers that don't adapt, and then you will see new people coming up as lawyers. But it's not really a question of whether or not we will have lawyers in the future.
Yeah. And where do you see, in which areas do you see like the most potential for the collaboration between startups and lawyers?
Well, it's every task that can be commoditized, may it be a legal task or non-legal task, has potential for software already today. I mean, 30% of all legal work can be outsourced already to software.
There's one specific answer, which is taking a case to court. I mean, as long as the court system is, as in Germany, it's 110 years old, and other European legal systems is the same way, there's no way I see a future where the court system will be fully digitalized. And so you need lawyers in the end, and you can't digitalize away the court system. So that's at least a part of the ecosystem where lawyers will have a role, because you need people standing in front of the judge, which is sad enough, but it's the case.
But at least in China, I think they already replaced judges by robots. So you can, North Korea.
Let's look at the role model series.
There's a robot judge in China, and Estonia said that they are open to the idea. So that's a little bit weird, I think.
So we have new big projects here. Okay, so looking a bit more into the future. So looking at the German legal tech market in the next 2 to 5 years, what do you expect from the market? Where do you see most potential for disruption?
So I think it has been mentioned many times, but I think there needs to be one major VC investing a large amount in a continental European legal tech or German legal tech. That hasn't happened yet. For the German VCs or the continental European VCs, I see a lot of hesitation because it's a complicated subject. And I think this will be a game changer. So if we see a big financing round, this will open up this entire ecosystem. A lot of startups will follow suit, and this will trigger, hopefully, as in fintech, which I've seen in 2013, 14, will trigger a whole new ecosystem. And I think Berlin is a good place for this to start.
think almost every German VC at the moment, or European VC at the moment, is looking into legal tech. So there will definitely be a big funding round. But I think your question more addressed to which technology changes will occur in legal tech. I believe that contract management and template management will get much better because they're the most there's the most competition. I believe there will be a consolidation of startups in the B2C area. So not every flight delay startup that is competing at the moment will be there in 5 years. There will be some bankruptcies, of course. I mean, it's venture capital, so we all assume that there will be 9 out of 10 startups going broke. And then there's also that the law firm management systems will get better and better. Because if you look at the legacy systems at the moment, they are horrible. But if you look at funding, there's been, I think, Bright Flag or so, they're from Dublin. They just received 8 million euros. And there's also another area which we all ignored, which can, to some sorts, be also considered legal tech, which is RegTech, regulatory tech. And especially the RegTech, which is aligned to the financial services, will get more and more funding and will become better and better because issues such as the GDPR become more and more relevant.
Okay, and still, as we have also some founders here in the room, what would you say, like, for what recommendations or advice would you give founders who in the legal tech area to start their company?
Can somebody give this advice to me, please? So, I mean, one word addressed to the lawyers in this room. So I think one big difference between a good lawyer and a good legal tech entrepreneur is product-driven thinking. A lawyer is trained in his entire education to consider case by case based on their individual merits, and legal tech is exactly the opposite. It's standardizing cases, excluding the complicated parts, the complex cases. And my impression, however, is that there are more and more law students interested in this field, and this is great. And I'm seeing a great future for legal tech because this is exactly the people we're needing. We're actually recruiting those kind of people. But product thinking is really, it's totally contrary to what every good lawyer is used to be doing, but it's exactly what we need in legal tech.
Yeah.
I think in both areas, B2C as well as B2B, like in many other business areas as well, I think user experience is really important because on the one hand you have consumers like trying to answer legal questions and they get bored and they are out of the process in a few seconds if they get bored, and the legal questions are in their opinion difficult. They aren't, but in their opinion they are difficult. And on the other hand you have mostly old school lawyers trying to use software for the first time in their lives. So I think on both sides user experience is really important.
And at the end, you should know that legal tech is a new thing, and every time if anything is new, you have to fight for the new thing. And we see it now at the moment. So MyWhite, one of the legal tech startup which fights against VW, is fighting against VW, and that is hard. And we are fighting against the airlines, and Daniel is fighting against Mieterbund, Vermieterbund. And that's very hard. And if you are a founder, you have to know that it will be a fight because it's new, and you have to stand behind it and behind the idea, and you have to go for this idea and in every case and in a regulatory case, and so you have to fight and stand behind this idea.
Yeah. Okay, then as a final question, sticking to that fight and also to that whole mindset issue that you also just mentioned, what do you think needs to be done to raise the awareness, also from young founders at universities? What needs to happen to drive that whole change a bit more?
I think to legal tech, the same applies as to the entire startup culture. We need a culture where it is allowed to fail, and especially lawyers are trained to never make a mistake and to never fail. And so every lawyer coming out of law school, finishing his referendariat, his two-year internship, has grown up with the culture, has been educated with the culture where it's forbidden to fail. So we probably need more failures.
More fuck-up nights, you mean? Legal tech fuck-up nights. Didn't you also organize some at the... Yeah.
But not legal tech.
Of course not.
This was more like legal fuck-ups.
Okay.
You shouldn't do as a founder. Yeah, I think also the law studies needs to change in this regard. So why don't you include coding in law studies? I don't really get it because it's really connected and will be more and more connected in the future.
So when you were law graduate, when I graduated more than 10 years ago, the options you had were becoming a judge, becoming a lawyer at a law firm, big or small, and that's about it, or taxi driver if you failed in your exams. And I think legal tech is adding a whole new dimension to this professional career thinking. And as I mentioned, we see a lot of legal tech initiatives at various universities throughout Germany. And there are people who are extremely interested, who might not even be extremely good in their state examination, which I don't care, if they have a product-driven thinking. And I think I'm really excited to find those people, and those will be great founders of great legal techs in the next 5 to 10 years.
Nice. Okay, so I would also love to give the audience actually the opportunity to ask some questions. So maybe, Tom, you can go around and just raise your hands if you have any questions.
Hello, and thank you very much for the interesting panel discussion and your insights. Looking at the big companies like Amazon, for example, is there any legal issue with regards to e-commerce or something which can be standardized, or do you have any experience with that?
Yeah.
Directly answer.
I directly answered, sorry, I directly answered.
It's a really good question. So, I mean, Amazon is the most customer-centric company on the planet. I'm not sure we're able to enforce any consumer rights because Amazon fucked up neglecting consumer protection laws. There's one topic that came up recently, which is geo-discrimination. So Amazon charging different prices depending on your server or your browser location. That's something I haven't investigated myself. Maybe they're doing that. It would make sense to do it if it's not transparent. But I think as soon as it becomes transparent, they will stop this practice. So we're not actually targeting e-commerce companies for breach of consumer laws.
Next question.
Hi, yeah, thank you very much for the really interesting discussion. My question is about the perception of lawyers regarding tech. So if you think about the last year, we had 3 very important laws that came up in the European Union, which was GDPR, then this regulation, and now it's paragraph 13. If you work in tech, all these 3 regulations, if you read about them, they make sense if you read them, but the technical implementation is, in some cases, almost impossible. So I think the perception is that lawyers or lawmakers try to make laws around tech and make laws about all the changes which are now coming up. But the perception is that they don't really understand the tech behind it. So that's what I'm always thinking. It's very difficult talking about lawyers in tech. So yeah, what is your opinion about that, and how can you how can we make it better? Like, how can we make better laws to make Europe attractive, but also keep the rights of our people?
We were struggling to answer this because it's obviously not directly related to legal tech, what topic we talked about, but it's an extremely important topic, which is that the regulator, the legislator, doesn't understand tech at all, and they don't know what they're regulating. And so from our perspective, we've been trying to find use cases for a legal product to enforce the GDPR, for example. It's relatively hard. I think we found a way to do it, to enforce consumer rights under the GDPR. But I think, I'm not surprised that the legislation that comes out of this discussion has nothing to do with current technological reality. So I don't have a real answer to that. As just if there are use cases we can tackle as legal tech, we're gonna do it. If you have an idea, let me know. But that's just the flaws of democracy, I would say.
And also, I think that law should always be tech agnostic. So if you look at the German Civil Code, it has been around for more than 100 years and it's still relevant. Why? Because it's tech agnostic. And what we've seen, especially with European legislation, such as the GDPR, is that the GDPR legislation is deep diving into what tech to use, how to use tech, and why to use tech. And that makes it more difficult. It also makes the laws less resistant against time and against change.
The only thing I can say about that is that, and it's really simple, but lawmakers and techies and like startups needs to talk to each other, and they need to be consulted far more than they are right now. This also applies for developing software for lawyers. I think it would be much better if you have further cooperations between lawyers and software developers, but also between like lawmakers and techies and lawyers using tech. This would be much better.
Because it just occurred to me, Stephanie mentioned that the Liberal Democrats had issued a draft bill on legal tech regulation, and what the guy did, so Roman Müller-Böhm, an FDP member of parliament, he went around throughout Germany and met every relevant legal tech player and talked to them about their legal issues. And this is a great way to do good legislation.
And so what we see at Flightright is that lawyers, that politicians don't know about the idea behind legal tech. So they're just at the beginning, and that's the problem. So the right way is to talk with each other and to get informated about legal tech. And what I saw is that everybody think that behind legal tech there's the idea is everything is automated. That's not the thing behind that, and that should be understood also. So talk with each other, that's the right way. So and understand.
Yes.
Yes, I have a follow-up question. We were talking about basically data-driven lawmaking. Do you think there will also be data-driven law enforcement? In a way that when you look at the tech regulation, well, the regulated area is basically entirely made up of digital facts, and to apply a law to that would mean to look at those digital facts and basically classify them by legal standards. And do you think that classification could be or will be automized?
Are you talking about smart contracts or something like that? So, this is what we do, right? So we do law enforcement. Law enforcement in the German sense of the word, which is Rechtsdurchsetzung, not law enforcement in the sense that, putting people to prison. Right? So, that's what we're doing, right? And there's an argument right now concerning especially flight delays, where they are arguing that those kind of things should be automated in the sense that if there's a flight delay, the airline should compensate automatically, and I think Steffi is more in a position to comment on this.
Now it's in everybody promote that flight compensation should be automated. So CDU, FDP, Grüne, everybody says, oh yeah, if you have a right of compensation, airline should compensate automatically. But that doesn't work in this way. And the idea behind is that nobody in the government and in the political way, everyone has to know about the idea what's automation. They don't know how to, what's the idea behind, and is it mainly automation of information, or is it automation of get your compensation the right way? But that will be in the future, that can be, yeah.
Why wouldn't it work? I mean, the data that you use is also like sort of semi-public data, and it's so relatively simple, the model. So why wouldn't you use work specifically? Also, for instance, it's not only the flight discussion, but also train, Deutsche Bahn, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think in the train discussion it could be work, but in the flight discussion you have the extraordinary circumstances. So the regulation 261 has some kind of facts where you can discuss about it. So an airline would at every time say, oh no, I don't want to compensate you because there are extraordinary circumstances like weather, strike, or anything like that. So you can do it in an automated way. So there are no watchdogs behind this when an airline should, when there's a law which obliged the airlines to compensate in an automatic way. So, and that's what the politicians say.
Because it's relatively thinkable
that
the information basically that is missing to make this happen, like for instance, that you have a central flight registry that also takes into consideration weather or strikes, that would then flag the flight centrally. Like that seems to be pretty basically realistic, even in a perspective of 2, 3, or 4 years.
Not too big for not in this way, but you have to have watchdogs behind this, and that's the idea behind. There should be somebody who says, no, you can't do this in this way. There is no extraordinary circumstance, and you have the ECG who gives you everything, a new verdict, and that should be behind this. And so you can build this up in an automatic way, like the politicians send out at the moment.
What's also interesting about that is that if you automate the whole process totally, you will have to ask you the question whether the airline is entitled to sue against that again before court, because in their opinion a passenger was not entitled to this claim, and this is also a shift of the burden of proof going on then. So the airline would have to prove that the extraordinary circumstances occurred despite an automatic process that it didn't occur.
So Singapore, for instance, I heard, I'm not really sure, I heard that apart from Estonia, there's also other countries that actually have started to work on central or public claim management somehow. For instance, Singapore, where this is consumer claims are somehow centrally managed and balanced. Do you know anything of that, like how they do it?
I think, I mean, you could do it on the technical way, like if you use like smart contracts, like if you can see that the flight is delayed and there was like sunny weather, like no storm, no strikes, whatever, then you could do it. I think it's not the technical issue here, it's more the politician, and that is the problem, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a problem, but I think it's also the specificity of the 261 regulation, because your partner, your contract partner, does not have the claim opponent. So there are many problems which runs out of the 261 regulation. So when you have another regulation like for Deutsche Bahn, it's easier. You have no extraordinary circumstances. There are only Deutsche Bahn where you can buy a ticket, and so yeah, if your train is delayed, so you can have the compensation because there's only Deutsche Bahn who is in it. But out of the regulation 261, you have co-share and wet lease. So I think nobody of you knows this tricky thing, what is co-share or wet lease. But that are all specific things that runs out of the 261 regulation. There's so many things which are in this area which you have to implement and think about it. And there's a problem of automation in the way of automation that, oh, your flight is delayed, here you have the compensation.
Okay, so we have a new question from the audience from here.
Hi, I come from outside of Union Europe and especially outside of Berlin and Germany. So I have two stereotypes about Germany special. So maybe you can answer. How flexible is the government about kind of startups, about legal teaching, and how government will help and to promote or to invest in kind of startups to be more, to change the culture, how said Clemens about. Did you answer?
You mean the role of governance?
For how open the German government about kind of startups, which can change the legal or something, can, for example, personal information or something, because when you consult a kind of application, you give kind of personal agreement with C2B or so on, and how government will help to promote for more people to use kind of applications. Or
maybe you can take the question offline because I'm not really sure I fully understood, but we can discuss bilaterally if that's okay.
Thank you. If I recollect a little bit my law courses, it seems to me that there is a fundamental difference between the practice of law in the US and in here in Germany. I'm asking myself this question: if we put aside the funding question, does that fundamental difference play a role in the fact that the ecosystem here is not taking off?
There's actually a paper by McKinsey which addressed that question, and so yes, there's a difference between the case law and the civil law systems. The case law system is more open to technology because, for example, the e-discovery is something that the case law countries have, and the civil law countries don't have to that extent. Also, there's English as some sort of lingua franca. So if you are a startup from the US and you address the English-speaking market, your market becomes much bigger than a startup from France or from Germany, Netherlands, and so on. So it's not really about the different mindset of the lawyers. It's more that the case law system, the Anglo-Saxon law system, is bigger and is probably a little bit more friendly to technology from the way it developed over the past years.
Next one.
Maybe a last question.
Yeah, maybe a question to Clemens, because you mentioned it. You mentioned the possibility or the potential of AI and big data. And now looking into the future, you also mentioned that, for example, was it South Korea, are using or replacing the judges with North Korea. Okay.
It was a joke, sorry.
Okay.
I don't know nothing about North Korea.
Okay. Yeah, but now, how do you see it? Because the human being is